Alright, stream starting. As usual, I'm going to go ahead and make sure mic is looking good. We just checked the audio, so thankfully we know the audio is going well. Make sure this is all set up, and looks like we are golden. Now, if you guys are actually wondering about the thumbnail, it's this cool thing called the laminin. I won't go into the story this time. You guys can mention if you want to hear the actual story later. But there's this guy who was speaking who actually mentioned it, not even during the sermon, but I think it was during a talk, talking about the laminin. And it's pretty much this little bit in our body that literally just holds matter together. And it's really cool. You saw the thumbnail, and that's actually what shaped the proteins like they're actually formed in, which is really awesome. So it's a cool thing to know that we're literally made of hundreds of thousands of tiny little crosses that hold us together, keep us from falling apart. It's pretty cool. So yeah, I want to go ahead and start a series. So I want to be very, very frank on this. They do have stipulations, on people being pastors, on being this, that, whatever. I've had a lot of people mention me, going into stuff like that. There are qualifications. You can share your faith no matter who you are. That we're actually called to do that. But things to keep in mind, like to be a pastor, there are certain qualifications that you can't be in sin in, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, we do need to hold them to a higher standard. That being the case, in certain struggles that I have, that's not something I'm comfortable doing. So at no point in the series am I comfortable on giving teachings or doing anything like that. If you want to look up recommendations, Mike Winger is top-notch, very awesome dude, does a lot of in-depth studies on a lot of things. He has literally hours of content on quite a few subjects, which are really great. So that being said, these are mostly just going to be readings, and then if we have people show up during stream, talks and discussions, and we'll kind of see where it goes from there. That being the case, though, I'm actually going to go ahead and type recommendations as they come to mind in the chat. That way, if you guys want to go check them out, you don't have to ask me to repeat the names or anything. So we got Mike Winger. You can look him up on YouTube. I'm just going to type in Pastor Online. And then I'll type in recommendation afterwards as well. And if you're curious, by the way, too, I normally have my phone Bible app, and then I have a ton of Bibles. I wanted to find this here, like one that I can have on my computer. That way we can just, look at everything pretty clearly, pretty quickly from here. I'm not a big fan of this one in the layout, if I'm going to be honest with you. So I'll let you guys know. It says it's the Shepherd Bible. You can look it up on Google and download it pretty quickly. I'm probably going to look for a different version eventually and download it, but for now, this one's doing pretty good. This one's looking decent, so let's go ahead and full screen. And we'll go ahead and get right into this. So Genesis 1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the waters, the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. And God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. What's interesting, a while back when I was looking into a lot of this, and I started reading like from the beginning and just trying to go like all the way through the Old Testament too, I wanted to really kind of get what firmament meant down, and then what they mean, like, he calls it heaven. Basically, the section between the water and space, like the whole sky between, was often referred to as heaven. So just a cool, neat thing to look into. But I definitely look up yourself, what firmament means in terms, in biblical terms. It's definitely an interesting thing to look into. On to verse 9. And God said, "Let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas. And God saw that it was good. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after its kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth." And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, an herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were in the third day. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down. And God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days, and for years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth." And it was so. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And God sent them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the fourth day. And God said, "Let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven, creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind." And God saw that it was good. And God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful, and multiply, and fill the waters and the seas, and let fowl multiply in the earth." And the evening and the morning were the fifth day. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, cattle and creeping thing, and beast of the earth after his kind." And it was so. And God made the beast of the earth after his kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And when God saw that it was good. And God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth." So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created them. Male and female created them. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, "Be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth." And God said, "Behold, I have given you every herb-bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree, in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. And to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat." And it was so. And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning... Sorry, my camera's actually in the way. Funny enough. Let me go ahead and do this. Here we go. All the way down. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day. So this one's a very broad one and very interesting. Honestly, it's always kind of amazing to kind of look back. There's so many questions too. You can kind of like prop in from each of these. But there's so many things like... I'm just going to mention a random thought. I'm not going to go too long, don't worry. But when you kind of go to how it describes certain things, like him having the water kind of like recede to the side, and then you go to, things like, the Tale of Noah. And the Tale of Noah, it actually mentions, plates beneath the waters and causing like geysers to come up pretty much or burst forth, which causes the flood that happens after that. It's just really interesting. And I remember learning in a class at one point, kind of things that, like underwater geysers that actually would displace land. And it's just really cool how it actually describes way back when, you know what I mean? Certain things that we're learning, you know, in science and now, really kind of going through all this stuff. It's really interesting. All right. Let's go on to Genesis chapter 2. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day, God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And God blessed the seventh day, and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which God had created and made. These are the generations of the heavens and of the earth when they're created, in the day that the Lord God had made the earth and heavens, and every plant of the field before it was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew. For the Lord God had not caused it to rain upon the earth, and there was not a man to till the ground. But there went up a mist from the earth, and watered the whole face of the ground. And the Lord God had formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. And the Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground made the Lord God to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight, and good for food, the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And a river went out of Eden to the water of the garden, and from thence it was parted, and became 4 heads. The name of the first is Pison, that is, it which compasseth the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold. And the gold of that land is good. There is bdellium and the onyx stone. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. And the name of the second river is Gihon. The same is it that compasseth the whole land of Ethiopia. And the name of the third river is Hiddekel. That is it which goeth toward the east of Assyria. And the fourth river is Euphrates. And the Lord God took the man, and put him into the garden of Eden, to dress it and to keep it. And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, Of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it. For in the day that thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die. And the Lord God said, It is not good that man should be alone. It will make him and help him meet for him. And out of the ground the Lord God formed every beast of the field, and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. And you notice, here right now, chapter 1 is talking broad creation. Over the course of 7 days, he created everything. And now in chapter 2, we're getting more specific. You know, in chapter 1, he mentioned he had already created all of the fowl of the air, and so on. But here he's mentioning specifics. So chapter 1 is over the whole 7 days. And then chapter 2 is going each day what happened, pretty much, and giving you more details. And Adam gave names to all the cattle, and to the fowl of the air, and to every beast of the field. But for Adam there was not found an help meet for him. And for help meet, so we are in, let me see, I gotta check later to see which translation this is. But in many other translations that goes to being like, you know, to find a suitable helper for him. Someone that's a good partner, a suitable helper. If that helps kind of make a help meet a little bit more understandable. Most translations are fine. Definitely do research though into which ones are good. Things like the Passion Translation, like there's certain things that I would avoid personally. But yeah, aside from that one, really, as long as it's a solid translation, you can kind of do with whatever and just see which one is more easy to understand for you, and then you can like work your way back if you want to like one of the harder to understand ones. That way you get, I guess, more of the context when you start understanding these turns of phrases a bit more. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. And the rib which the Lord God had taken from man made he a woman, and brought her unto the man. And Adam said, This is now bone of my bones, and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. I think that's good. Starting off, and we'll go with the first 2 chapters. So something interesting that we mentioned with the Book of the Knowledge of Good and Evil. Let me see if I can find back, or not the book, I'm sorry, with the fruit tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Right there in verse 17, kind of mentioning again. What's always interesting to me is if you really kind of look into it, there's so many tales. I don't remember what this one is, but it's where they're doing these experiments on mice and, like, you know, making them smarter pretty much and more self-aware. And there's this guy who basically had that happen to him. It's a fictional book, of course. But when he was not very bright, when he was very unintelligent, you know, he'd be hanging around people who were, you know, making fun of him, you know, treating him poorly, whatever, and they'd be laughing. He wouldn't understand why they'd be laughing, but he would enjoy life more. Now, we want knowledge. We want to be aware, and he felt the same way. But as, you know, the story kept going and he kept getting smarter, I don't remember exactly how they did it, but it was some, you know, technical thing that did it. The more he was aware of, yeah, he was more intelligent, but the less he enjoyed life. Which shows that even though, I guess it goes to the saying, right, that ignorance is bliss, but at the same time, though, there's so many stresses that come with it. Now, with the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you would think you would want knowledge, not just something to be desired. But the problem, of course, is this opens up the knowledge and the temptation of evil, which we are not capable of fully resisting. So just things to kind of think about, I guess. And where I mentioned the reference with that book is that the more he seemed to know, the less he seemed to enjoy life. I recommend the Daily Audio Bible to you guys in a previous video. Still highly recommend it, especially if you have trouble reading, you know what I mean, the Bible. This is an audio one that Brian does every single day, so you can get, you know, a new bit spoken to you every single day, every single year, pretty much. And we just went over and started Ecclesiastes with Solomon, who was meant to be the wisest man who's ever lived. And he's just going through talking about how pointless everything is. And without God, everything really is pointless. But in all his wisdom, he's comparing, you know, whether you're rich or poor, we all end up in the ground, you know. Whether you're man or you're animal, he's saying, you know, does all of our wisdom, intelligence, and dominion over them really matter? Because, or is it of any advantage? Because at the end of the day, we all end up dead. You know, Ecclesiastes is a really cynical, nihilistic book, for sure. But it's very real if God didn't exist. It's very true. If God didn't exist, there really is no meaning in anything, because everything is temporary. But it also shows and guides us to that great hope that Jesus gives us, that God gives us, you know. And that's a common theme throughout the Bible too, if you really go into it. God often tells us to focus on things that'll last. You know, don't focus on the temporary things, for the things of this world are passing, right? You know, my money is not going to last me. All my things, you know what I mean? These videos that I have for you guys aren't going to last. But for all of us, you know, who believe in God, who give our lives to Jesus, we're going to live forever with him. God's going to live forever, you know, obviously. Well, he's beyond that, but you know what I mean? Like, these are the things that are eternal, you know? So, and God talks consistently about, you know, giving alms to the poor and helping out the poor and helping out the people who need it. Being a servant to people, a loving servant, and doing God's will is like very, very well emphasized all throughout the Bible, for sure, especially in the New Testament as well. And that's really what matters, you know. Money isn't evil, but love of money absolutely is. And it's one of those things where be wise with your money. It doesn't mean to just give all of yourself up, you know what I mean, and then become homeless. But we all can serve a little more and give a little more, you know what I mean. You see somebody in need, help them, you know, that type of thing. Be wise about it, be safe about it. But, you know, just have a cheerful giving heart. You know, don't give because you feel that you're forced to. But give because we're called to serve each other, you know, and love each other. Which means putting other people before yourself. Not in an unhealthy way, but just looking after other people's needs. So yeah, a lot. The first two chapters, of course, focus just on the creation of the earth, and then some of the specifics. I always love reading the beginning. It's one of those things that really interests me on. I would love to be able to just see it. Like, imagine just seeing God actually creating the planets and the stars and everything. And how amazing that would be. Astrologists, we come up with new, you know, telescopes, new ways of seeing further and further into the universe, and just keep coming across these galaxies and all these beautiful, beautiful, you know, whether they be planets or stars or all these, you know, amazing, you know, assorted colors of gases throughout the universe outside of our planet, and it's just amazing. So it's one of those things that really makes you just appreciate all the beauty and everything God's made. So, but I'll go ahead and then add that comment, that recommendation. I'll go ahead and make a comment mentioning Mike Linear for YouTube, and then the Daily Audio Bible as well in the video that ends up being posted for this. But for now, this is episode 1. We did Genesis 1 and 2. I really enjoyed doing this reading with you guys. Hopefully y'all did as well, and I will catch y'all on the next one.